Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our World Cup Daily programme, giving you a whistle stop tour of all things going on at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. I'm Chris Bell. I'd like to say I'm joined by Gareth Walker and Lewis Sale. Are we, gents? Are we well?
Not bad, mate. Thank you.
I'm good, mate. You?
Yeah, all good. Trying to find ways to stay cool in this heat whilst trying not to get too hot under the collar about the political situation in this country. What a day. What a bizarre morning it's been already. World Cup wise, a hell of a busy weekend to be fair that we've had. Did you two catch much of it at all? I know, guys, you racing out of Saturday, full stop. So relying on Saturday with you there, Lou. But did you catch much of it, guys? Rest of it?
Yeah, bits and bobs, mainly last night, to be honest. And like I say, I was away. I was at a wedding, which took up most of the weekend. So I'm going to be a bit sketchy on some stuff. But I tried to watch as many of the highlights as I could last night and jot a few bits down. So hopefully I'll be able to contribute a bit. But yeah, there'll be bits where I think you and Lou will have to do a bit more than me.
It will be fine. Lou, did you catch much of the action over the weekend?
Yeah, you know me, being a bit of a nerd. Yes, I watched them all, to be fair. If I didn't watch it live, I've recorded it and watched it first thing in the morning, which I quite enjoyed, actually. And I've got myself a bit of a strict regime. If I don't watch it in the crazy hours of the morning, I will watch it first thing, but I won't have my phone on. I won't check the 160 messages in our group chat, and I've got it as if it's live, so I don't know what the score is. It's actually quite enjoyable for a change.
It's like when you watch a match of the day without knowing any of the scores beforehand. And that
I don't know how people do that, especially during the day. I don't know how people can do it, but especially when you know you're going to sleep, you're not going to check your phone, and the first thing you've got a choice to make. So, no, I've enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been some really good, entertaining games. I think we're talking, 114 goals so far across the tournament, which is pushing on being a record. And listen, it could have been a lot more with different chances. But yeah, I mean, looking forward to going through them and looking ahead to another bit of action tonight and in the morning.
Yeah, contrasting your strict regime, I woke up at 2:30 to go for a slash, got back into bed, looked at my phone and saw New Zealand were 1-0 up and was like, oh, that's fantastic. I hope they hold on to that, only to wake up and then be disappointed. Let's make a start then and rewind back to Friday. I can't remember the kickoff times, but there we go. Those were the games that we had on Friday. Mexico, was the early hours of the morning game. Which we will have covered on Friday's show. But Scotland versus Morocco, when that happened, I can't remember. Help me out here, Lou. When did games happen again?
Scotland kicked off about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, didn't it? I think our time. Yes, I think that one happened, and Morocco scored really early, didn't they? And didn't really look like in too much danger. I know
that was it. It was the US Australia was before the earlier kick before Scotland Morocco on Friday night. Yeah. That was it. Let's start with that game at the bottom then, the USA versus Australia. We wondered when we were on Friday whether Australia could kind of keep out the USA the way they were able to keep out Turkey. It became pretty evident. The simple answer to that was no, they could not.
Yeah, and I think, obviously Gaz will probably touch on it as well, but Australia probably rode the luck a little bit against Turkey, and obviously they got the job done, but, they did ride the luck a little bit, and then I think the luck almost ran out. United States of America looked decent. I'll be honest, probably from the reports that you hear and what we've seen before the tournament, they were, not too confident about going into this competition. Pochettino had his doubters as well, but listen, two comfortable victories at home. And they could potentially be one of our surprise package that people didn't really expect to see, and really fast-flowing kind of football that we've used to been seeing from Poch at Spurs and PSG down the years. And, comfortably in through the knockout rounds. Let's see what they can do in that final game. But, yeah, listen, they've dominated this group, and arguably, despite the opposition, they've arguably been one of the best teams in the tournament so far, which, from a host nation perspective, is good to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Gaz, we'll come on to the next game that day, which was into Group C, and Scotland against Morocco. Again, it was one of those. It wasn't a terrible performance from the Scots. It just took them a while to get going. They just started rather tentatively, I think, and obviously you go a goal down inside 70 seconds, it's always a mountain to climb. But get a foothold they did, but they just never really, until that second half in particular, kind of really threw what they could at. I mean, maybe the last 10 minutes of the first half or so, but it wasn't really until the second half that you saw them really trying to get back at it and trying to get back level.
Yeah, exactly that. I thought early doors it was all Morocco really, and I've been impressed with Morocco in that first game. I think a few people have got them down as the dark horse. I think Lou mentioned it in the group before the tournament that he thought they could do quite well. We said, didn't we, on our pod that we did last week, that they mainly really just lacked maybe a striker up front. But I thought in that first half, Scotland were on the ropes a little bit at times, especially early doors. Obviously, they conceded the early goal, and then you thought Morocco could get a few, but Scotland grew into it as the game went on, and as you say, maybe towards half time, just started to press a little bit themselves. And then the second half, they were a lot better. Definitely wasn't as one-way traffic as the first half, and maybe a few chances towards the end. It just makes you think, though, doesn't it, that they're going to have to get something against Brazil in that last game. I don't know if a defeat might be enough. Can you go through with one win and two defeats? I'm not quite sure. Will it be good enough for third place? Possibly.
Yeah.
But to be sure, they're probably going to want to get something out of that Brazil game.
Yeah, I think depends on goal differences and the like, doesn't it? I think it could be. It wouldn't be surprising because it's only, 4 third-place sides that go out, so it wouldn't surprise me if 3 points was enough to start with, at least on that one. Couple of penalty shouts as well in it that obviously they didn't get. One of them, which I was surprised actually, because the VAR expert Christina Uncle that ITV have been using all along, and she's been very forthright and very stern, I think, across the board so far in her views of when things are right or wrong sort of thing. She was pretty convinced that Scotland possibly should have had a penalty, to my surprise at least.
Yeah, when I watched it at first, I wasn't so sure. When I watched it back, I thought you see them one of those you might more see them given. But then when she came on and said that, it was like a bit like, wow, because she's back to the officials quite a lot, hasn't she, so far? So yeah, maybe they were a little bit unlucky in that respect. But I would still say on the balance of play in that first half period that Morocco deserved to win the game. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah, Lou, I mean, for you, obviously, Morocco, they were one of your dark horses to start with anyway, obviously. I mean, I don't know how dark horse it is to pick a side that made a semi-final in the last World Cup.
No, and like I say, I completely qualify that. Yeah, I mean, 7th in the world rankings, but I think people just didn't, for whatever reason, have not really called it out. That's the reason why we said it. Like I said, probably the US are more of a dark horses, so to speak, compared to the rankings in terms of where Morocco. I thought, listen, Scotland gave it a battle in that second half. I thought they were all over the place after that early goal. They didn't really settle. His lineup interested me, and I know he's been called out by some Scottish quarters and Titan Army about the squad that he chose, dropping likes of Gannon Doak as well and Shankland. That I think surprised a few people. And like I say, once the goal went in, and yeah, I mean, listen, people know probably what I think of Scotland, but, the first, 15, 20 minutes, they looked just all over the place. Shape was not there. They didn't really have a clear plan. To the credit, they came back into it second half, and like I say, they had a couple of opportunities, but I think Morocco had another gear or two left in them, whereas I think Scotland were pretty much at the limit of where they could try and get to against a quality opposition. I thought McTominay penalty was not a penalty. I think the McGinn one, there's a shout. I think there's definitely a shout in it. I think the leaning into the side gives it a little bit. It's one of those that we keep saying it, don't. If that's given, I don't think it gets overturned. But because it's not been given, it's not going to be overturned. But we've probably seen that in the Premier League, and with respect, that probably is going to be a penalty. And some things have been a little bit more lenient, which I think we've quite enjoyed. But there is going to be situations where you see some instances, this one probably just being right on the edge of it, where you can go, maybe that could have been, could not have been. But I'll be honest, I'm not saying football doesn't always work like that, whether you deserve a point or not. But I think they can probably feel a little bit aggrieved they've not got a penalty. But then again, they probably didn't do enough really during that game to get a win either.
I think it's a really good point that you made about the refs there, Lou. Like, I know Jay's been vocal about it in the group chat, and I've been thinking the same. They've been pretty good so far. I've been impressed with them, and I think they get a lot of criticism to referees regularly for good reason. But I think we should call it out when they do well. And I think on the whole, this tournament they've been pretty good so far. Touch wood, they've been pretty good.
I agree. I think what will be really interesting is some of the rules that IFAB have brought in for this are carried through to the worldwide kind of domestic scene as well, because some of those have got to be carried over. I think some of them have worked an absolute treat. maybe not the hydration break, but there's certain instances where it can actually, be properly carried over.
Yeah. Let's move on then. The other games in Group C and D, respectively. Brazil, with a comfortable first half performance against Haiti, that was enough in the end, Gaz, for them to get over the line with that 3-0 win.
Yeah, it was one-way traffic, wasn't it, from what I saw that, really? I mean, they had 2 goals disallowed. The only thing I think I remember from the highlights that I saw was Alisson made one really good save. Can't remember whether it's first half or second half. It was one really good save that denied Haiti the first goal in the tournament. But one-way traffic, 2 disallowed. More like the Brazil that we're used to, because I wasn't particularly impressed with them in the first game at all, although partly that could be down to Ancelotti. We talk about how he sets his teams up. He's obviously gone with the holding midfielders in the first game. He took Casemiro off and brought Fabinho on, which we talked about. Both players' legs starting to go towards the end of the career. Obviously, we know it's only Haiti, but more of the Brazil that I would expect. And like I say, pretty much one-way traffic, really, and 3 good goals and a comfortable win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Group D saw Paraguay get a win over Turkey. Turkey, Lou, I say, despite a few shouts of being dark horses, the first side to be confirmed as exiting the competition.
Yeah, I think they'll be majorly disappointed the way they've gone out. But listen, I think this is one that you look at the scoreline and it really doesn't reflect the game. Having watched it, Turkey dominated the game. They really did. I think they had over 75% possession. I think their XG from what it came out, from what I remember, was about 2. So, listen, it was a proper smash and grab for Paraguay, and they were down to 10 men as well. So, it's just one of those tournaments sometimes that you see some teams that you think might do well just don't, and they don't either get the rub of the green or they just, for some reason, it just doesn't work out. Tunisia seems to be one in Turkey or another.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, the red card for Paraguay, the first time we've seen it in the competition, and the most dramatic way of awarding a red card. But first time we've seen it, I was surprised myself that it has taken so long for us to get a red card for covering the mouth, because it's commonplace in the game.
Yeah, I think, it's sensational from a referee. He's that's going to stay in it, I think. I think and again, it's so difficult because when you're looking on the outside in and you want to get an advantage over your opponents, but the Turkey could not wait to shout at the officials once he put his hand over his mouth. That hadn't really been picked up, but as soon as he did it, he's gone in the referee. He's going, he's covered his mouth. I'm like, oh, really? It's like being back at school in a playground going, sir, he's done something wrong, But yeah, I mean, they are going to miss Almiron because he's one of their key kind of front three is Miguel Almiron. So it will be a bit of a blow for him. But yeah, you're probably right. Listen, it's going to happen, I think, probably another point in time in the games, and probably when it actually matters even more so. So that could be one to watch out for.
Do we think, though, that despite, obviously, in this case, the Turkish player aggressing up no end, that actually it would have been spotted anyway? It would have been called back on VAR anyway, regardless of the reaction from the Turkish player?
If I'd have seen it, and it could have been picked up, possibly so. I'm a little bit of, you've put your hand over your mouth. Obviously, it depends what's been said, but if you're saying something that's really offensive and stuff, absolutely, you deserve to be sent off and the ramifications of that. But, we're talking about somebody covering the mouth, so is it really that bad? I don't know.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because obviously, like you said earlier, that's why it's been brought in, because obviously things that are being said could be really offensive.
Yeah.
There's no way of telling.
It was the Benfica game, wasn't it? It was the Benfica Madrid game that is the only reason, let's be honest, is the single incident that has then led to this being brought in case something is said that is obviously of racist abuse or whatever, really. If it hadn't have been for that incident, I genuinely don't think they'd have brought this in at all.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And like I said, that understandably and rightly, that's been brought in. There's no way of knowing on the pitch there and then what's been said, particularly because of all the difference in languages. One person says one thing, one person says something else. You don't know who's right. So it's difficult to know. And that's why I think that's why it's been brought in as a blanket thing. But I think also, I kind of felt sorry for him in a way, because he's the first one to do it. And it happens so much in the game. We see it week in, week out, players doing this. Has he just forgotten? Has he just done it without even thinking? Forgotten that this rule's been brought in?
Instinct in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's what I think it is, because the thing is, you see every week in the Premier League, certainly, in particular, at half time when players are walking off the pitch, at full time when players are walking off the pitch, It can be players of the same team. It can be players of opposition teams that are together, and they're always covering the mouths so the TV cameras aren't picking up whatever's being said, whether even just a normal conversation sort of thing. So, yeah, for me, it's the norm for players, I think, nowadays. So this is why I was surprised it's taken almost this long, actually, for a red card for that to come up, to be fair.
Wait till somebody gets suspended for the final when it happens in the semi-final. That's when it'll really kick off.
Yeah, and it not be over any kind of furore or, altercation, shall we say, for it to just be a casual one as well. Let's move on then to, excuse me, Saturday night's games, which we saw. So Group F was the earlier kickoff of that one, the 6 o'clock kickoff, in which Sweden, after that great start against Tunisia, got their goal difference back to a square root of sod all of 0, with a 5-1 defeat against the Netherlands. Netherlands looking particularly good on Saturday night, though, Lou.
Yeah, they look good. Once they get in the full flow of it, Netherlands, they've got a decent team. We've said that they may be just a level, maybe slightly shy of the likes of England and France and Spain. But, listen, they put Sweden to the sword. I've got to say this about Sweden. They were poor, really poor. And Graham Potter just did not have a plan B, plan C, plan D. I think he just tried to see if plan A would work any better, and it just wasn't. And, some of the things I've seen on online and even through the radio over the week, fellow West Ham fans having a bit of a pop at him and saying, "Oh, it looked like what we had under him," and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes you've just got to stop what were happening, and they just seem to just gather momentum. Did Netherlands, and Sweden should be doing a lot better with the quality of players that are available. And I know obviously they won the first game and could probably go through, but listen, I think that kind of brings them back down to earth a little bit, because Netherlands are okay, but they're not sensational. To lose 5-1, and it could have been more, might just reset a few people about, because it was only a few days ago people going, "Oh, Sweden could be a dark horse," and now they've lost 5-1, and now they're going to go out of competition. This is how fickle fans are, aren't they? So yeah, listen, Netherlands, strong team up top. They've got quality. We know obviously with Brobbey and Gakpo who scored, they've got Premier League ability in there. So it'll be interesting how far they go, because they're gonna, when they come up against some of the bigger nations in inverted commas, or like Spain, France, so that's when that real test comes in from like a few others.
I wonder if anybody's ever won the first game 5-1 and lost the second one 5-1. It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, that's going to be a first.
I actually got one of the first highlights that I watched, because obviously it was the 5-1 scoreline attracted me to watch that first. And like you say earlier, I thought they got battered. They got absolutely battered, did Sweden, which was bizarre, because they obviously hammered Tunisia. I know Tunisia had the problems in the dressing room and what's going on with the manager and stuff, but to go from 5-1 winners to 5-1 defeat was just bizarre.
I think it possibly shows the tiers in that group, though, to be fair. That I think you've got Tunisia, who will be the whipping boys for everyone in that group. You saw Japan put 4 past them as well, which we'll come to. I think it's a very tiered group, is that we have got Tunisia is easily the worst side in that group. Japan versus Sweden, I think, will be a really interesting game, actually. I think a draw in that game, though, is probably going to be enough to put both sides through anyway. And then obviously you would expect the Netherlands to put a handful past Tunisia as well, but obviously they'll probably rotate for it, because they can do, and they can use it to rest a few players. I think it just says a lot about that group, that particular group in general, that it is just a very tiered group of 4, really.
Yeah, we watched the Netherlands Japan game, and I remember talking to you about that one, and I was a bit, obviously, I was disappointed in Japan in that game. I thought they'd be better. Netherlands were the better side, I thought, for large parts of it. But then they made that change at the end, didn't they, where they took off a forward player and brought a defender on, and it backfired, and they lost. So Japan equalised. So I think there's a chance that Koeman holds them back, but it was great that for them that they managed to bounce back after that game and win so comfortably, really. It'll be interesting, like Lou says, to see how they do against the better sides, because I'm not 100% convinced.
Yeah, we'll see. I like this Dutch team. I think there's quality. Like, you're looking from the 1 to 11, they're all top division players. They're all top quality players. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on in the latter stages. Onwards to the 9 o'clock game on Saturday night, which was Germany beating the Ivory Coast by 2-1, and they left it bloody late, to say the least, Lou, in that one. Dennis Undav, former Brighton man, had a brief stint there, but has done very well at Stuttgart since he moved on from Brighton Hove Albion. He was the hero coming off the bench.
Yeah, and many players probably won't like that tag or something being associated with them, but this World Cup is for me is a lot about those finishers who end that game and as part of that squad depth, and he's proven that he's able to get
There's
Germany into
finishers, not substitutes. The substitutes. Let's stick to the traditions.
Yeah. So yeah, in terms of just finishing the game and doing what they need to do and winning it, and that's what they needed. You know, they did struggle a little bit, obviously conceding the first goal. I thought they dealt reasonably well with Ivory Coast threat, but there wasn't much between both teams. But like I say, I think the depth that Germany had compared to Ivory Coast just came out on top and left it late. We've seen a lot of late goals in this tournament, a lot of late goals, which is, I think it's a sign of, one, I think teams being fit and staying switched on at the right times and making the moments when they need to. So it's a good win for him because it was going to be just a 1-1 draw, and I think both teams have been reasonably comfortable with that. But I think that'll give Germany a big boost because I think they know they're capable of pulling something from behind in terms of being 1-0 down and coming back to win 2-1, winning at the last minute in a tournament situation. You're going to have to count upon that at some point in the knockouts. And I think that's actually probably one result that might just go under the radar a bit. I think that's a big one for Germany. Is that?
Am I right in thinking that they had 2 goals disallowed, Germany, in that? Is that am I remembering that right? And then they beat the offside trap with the winner at the end.
They had one for a foul on the goalkeeper that was disallowed in the first half. But then, you might be right about the second. You might be right about having a second as well. The
highlights made it look like they had a lot of chances.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, I thought the Ivory Coast did all right in that game as well, to be fair. I wasn't surprised to see them cause Germany some problems. Going to the other 2 games then from those groups, the early hours of Sunday morning, Ecuador held to a goalless draw by Curacao. Not a result that we would have necessarily seen coming after Curacao conceded 7 to the Germans, Gaz.
No, the keeper's had another stormer, hasn't he?
Yes,
I think I read
he has.
15 Eloy Room, is he called? He's had 50 record, 15 saves. Like I say, it's a World Cup record.
38-year-old, I think he is, Eloy Room. He's been around for years. I remember him playing for Feyenoord Donkeys years ago.
He made noticeable saves from Valencia in particular and Caicedo. Curacao could go through, couldn't they, if they get a result versus the Ivory Coast, which would be absolutely remarkable. A masterclass from their keeper, really, and like I said, could go through. They probably need to beat the Ivory Coast to go through. But if the keeper can turn up and play like that, Ecuador were fancied, weren't they, before the tournament to do all right? So remarkable, really, and fair play to Carrico and Dick Advocaat.
Yeah, absolutely. A good point for them. As you say, it's going to be interesting. Germany, top of the group on 6 points, so as they've got to play Ecuador yet. Curacao will play the Ivory Coast in the final game of that group for them. And as you say, I mean, hypothetically, if Ecuador got the better of Germany as well, Ivory Coast could end up going bottom of the group and out on 3 points. So it will be interesting to see how that finishes into Group G. Absolute stinker again from last night. Belgium 0, Iran 0.
Yeah, I think Roy Keane summed it up, didn't he, in his comments, saying he thought it was rubbish, wasn't far off. Just Belgium seemed to underwhelm, though. I mean, Iran, to be fair, did what they needed to do. I thought, actually, if there were any team going to win it, they could have sneaked it. They had a couple of really good opportunities in that second half to sneak it. But Belgium just, I'm going to say this, and they're probably going to sneak and go right through to the end, but just don't see much about them. I just don't see where that kind of quality that they've had in the past. I mean, they had that, in Golden Generation a few years ago that really didn't do too much. And now some of those players have come into the end of a shelf life. And I'm just not been really convinced. And it's a shame because they've got some real good quality players in that camp. And
this is the thing, I'm with you on this because I said this to guys, like on paper, and with some of the younger ones as well, the lesser known names, there's some real quality in there that aren't like big, household names, for example. And I said to you guys, didn't I think, when we first were on and we first saw Belgium, I thought that Belgium would benefit and possibly do better this year by not being held back by Roberto Martinez, for one, and also not having that Golden Generation tag stamped on the back this time around, which I thought might have helped them relax a bit, take the shackles off, and look a bit better than they have done in recent years. And I say that absolutely wasn't the case at all in the end. And yeah, they're in that kind of middling position, aren't they? 2 points from 2 games, level on points with Iran. They may well squeak through. Who they got left? They have got New Zealand left, haven't they, to play?
I mean, with the greatest respect, if they can't beat New Zealand, they deserve to go out.
I thought it looked like Roberto Martinez was still manager the way they were playing, because they were dreadful.
Yeah.
They were really everything seemed to what they wanted to go through De Bruyne all the time. Like you said, the players are getting older. We did have a long discussion about it actually, Chris, didn't we? About that golden generation tag and how you thought that they'd be better for it, but they don't look like it. And then and Iran obviously had that goal disallowed from a really inventive free kick, and as Lou said, possibly could have won it. Really,
love that.
They pinched it from the Netherlands 4 years earlier, but anyway,
still got to do it. Still got to do it.
Only the difference is they couldn't stay on side. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do in that final group game, I guess, for the Belgians. Obviously, they've got New Zealand to play. We'll come to that one last. We'll go to Group H. Spain, having completely lost the shooting boots in the game against Cape Verde, found them against Saudi Arabia, Lou.
And now Spain will be tipped to probably win the tournament after winning 4-0 against Saudi Arabia. So,
well, you know what? They went out in the bookies' odds after the 0-0 draw against Cape Verde. They dropped it further away. And then, as you say, off the back of that, I think they have been brought back in slightly, but that's just the way betting works.
Of course it does. Yeah. I think we know the quality Spain have got. They'll be up there, thereabouts towards the end, and comfortably beat Saudi Arabia 4-0. It could have been a lot more. Saudi Arabia looked poor, unfortunately, against a real good quality team in Spain, and Spal could have had a hat-trick. It could have been a wonderful finish, but he tried to get from almost the edge of the area into that top corner, and comfortably won that one, and should see themselves through to the knockouts without any kind of issues now, really.
Yeah, absolutely. The other game in that group, I don't think you stayed up for it, didn't you, last night, Gaz? A bit of an absolute cracker between Uruguay and Cape Verde.
Loved it. Possibly my favourite game of the tournament so far. I thought it was well worth staying up for. Cape Verde, I mean, wow. Just wow. Some of the stuff that they played on the break, the one-touch stuff, I mean, the second goal, the equaliser, where he flicks it and he sort of, it's a delicate side foot volley, mid-air from outside the box just to roll it into the net. I just thought they were quality. They were absolutely brilliant. And I was willing them to get a winner at the end because they were a threat. They were a threat. I know Uruguay were clearly going to dominate territory and possession, and Uruguay had lots of chances too. And Darwin Núñez came on and created chaos like he used to do for Liverpool. But yeah, Cape Verde, I mean, it was just a brilliant watch. Brilliant watch. Two really good teams having a really, really good go. The referee let everything flow. They were throwing hammer and tong at it. They were just, it was just really, really good. I can't enthuse about that game enough, Chris, and it was well worth staying up for. Like I said, they threw the kitchen sink at it. Did both teams. Really, really, really enjoyed it. And if it could mean that, I mean, it sets up that last game, that Spain-Uruguay game, could be really, really good. I've been looking forward to it anyway. It'll probably disappoint now, but Cape Verde, wow, just wow.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, what does it say about Uruguay? I guess that they've drawn, obviously, both games against Saudi Arabia and Cape Verde, but equally, what praise are we giving Cape Verde, I guess, for drawing games against Spain and Uruguay?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're saying, weren't we, even last night when we were talking? Like, Cape Verde would have gone through if it'd been in a 32-team tournament anyway. I think people overlook that point. They finished top of the group, beat Cameroon. They'd lost one game in 10, which unfortunately was against Cameroon right at the very beginning. I agree with Gaz. Last night were a proper game of football, real blood and thunder. Both teams going at it. Were Uruguay at the best? No, but it didn't really matter because sometimes it just opened up the game for both teams, and we were both giving it to each other. And I loved it. It was I agree. I think in terms of entertainment, quality may not be, but the actual entertainment of it was probably arguably the game of the tournament. And it's a shame it wasn't on earlier for a lot of other people to watch because that was a real good watch. But listen, you're right. Cape Verde, you've got the points where they've needed to get it, arguably against, on paper, the two toughest teams. There's nothing at the moment from what I've seen that suggests they'll get defeated by Saudi Arabia. I think, in fact, they stand a good chance of getting another point or possibly even getting three, which will see them through to the knockouts, which, let's be honest, they deserve at the moment. Based on what they've done, they absolutely deserve to go through.
I feel like when it comes to that game being played. It's going to be a really difficult decision because Spain versus Uruguay on paper is without a doubt the game you would generally choose to watch over Saudi Arabia versus Cape Verde. However, I genuinely think that everyone around the world has kind of taken Cape Verde on as a second team almost and will be willing then to get the job done against Saudi Arabia. So it's going to be a dual screen operation, I think, for that group when it comes to it on the final game of that one. Let's look at the final game, which was early hours of this morning. New Zealand were a goal up against Egypt, but lost by 3-1 in the end. Egypt obviously misfiring a little bit against Belgium, but got the result at least, Gaz, very quickly.
Yeah, I can only talk on it, like I said, quickly because it was silly o'clock, wasn't it, that one? As you say, New Zealand took the lead. I thought Egypt came back into it as the game went on. From the highlights, obviously got the win. Salah playing in the 10 again is interesting because he's never played in that position before that I'm aware of. Obviously at Liverpool, he was always out on the right. I think with his form dissipating a little bit as it did last season, and that might be a future role for him depending on where he ends up. He's obviously still not got a club yet for next season as far as we're aware of, but a good win for Egypt to be able to come back because I didn't think New Zealand looked like any mugs in the games that I've seen of them so far. Chris Wood is a threat. We know the lad that got the 2 goals in the first game is a threat. They look decent against England in the friendly. So for Egypt to be able to come from behind and win that game, I think is a feather in the cap for them. And with Salah getting his first goal at a World Cup, I just thought, yeah, pleased for him, obviously from a Liverpool perspective. And they now have a really good chance of going through. It leaves the group open, doesn't it, with Belgium drawing and New Zealand have a win and Egypt have a win.
Yeah, here's hoping that. I wouldn't be sad to see them go just because I just don't know the way Salah's been over the last 18 months, to be fair. So, sod him.
I know Lou will agree with you on that. Lou's not been happy with me, but have you, mate?
Yeah, he can have no success from me. So, out they go, Egypt. Argentina versus Austria tonight, followed by France versus Iraq at 10 o'clock. And that is followed by, in the early hours of the morning, Norway versus Senegal. And an absolute corker of a game on paper between Jordan and Algeria said absolutely effing nobody. Let's start then with the games this evening. Very quickly, Argentina versus Austria at 6. I'll come to you, Lou, for that one to start with.
Yeah, for me, winner of this wins a group. You'd probably expect Argentina to win, but again, it'd be interesting to see what Austria do. They've got that win under the belt early doors against Jordan, so I think Argentina will probably just have enough. But listen, Austria could really frustrate Argentina. I think tonight.
They could.
Let's see how they go. But I mean, yeah, it was Lionel Messi show in the first game. Let's see if he does it for the second one.
Yeah, Gaz, quick word on that one.
Yeah, I said to you that I was disappointed I couldn't watch Argentina in the first game, so I like to watch the holders, and obviously you disagreed. They looked comfortable in that first game. I think Lou's right. I think Austria will cause them a lot more problems than they had in the first game. But yeah, I look forward to watching it. It's a decent kick-off time for us, isn't it? And like you said, Lionel Messi getting on. I actually looked up how old he was yesterday. He's 38, 39. I didn't realise he was that old because my lad asked me how old he was. I thought it was 34, 35. But yeah, Lionel Messi showing the first game. He's going to have to do it again because Austria will be a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, I think my wording was if Argentina were playing in my back garden, I'd close the curtains. We'll see whether I watch that game tonight at 6 o'clock. France versus Iraq at 10. Obviously, France, Lou, awfully stodgy in that first half in their first game against Senegal. Turned it on in the second half against an Iraq side who gave it a real go against Norway. They lost 4-1, but we thought 4-1 certainly flattered the Norwegians, really, on the scoreline in that one. So how do you see this one going tonight at 10 o'clock?
It was only going to be one winner of that one, isn't there? I think we all know where that's going. I think that's going to France. Yeah, I mean, they were a little bit stodgy, but Senegal are a good team as well. I think they've probably arguably the best game is going to be the one at 1 o'clock between Norway and Senegal. I think that's going to be a really good one.
I agree.
But I think France, let's be honest, if we're going to probably get a comfortable 2-0 lead or something at half time, I'd expect them to rest a few players because they will need to probably beat or get something out of Norway to finish top of that group.
Yeah, let's go on to those games. And as mentioned, Norway, Senegal. For me, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it'll be a very, very good game. So it looks it on the face of it, Gaz, between Norway and Senegal. I mean, 1 a.m. Look, if the temperatures are forecast to be what they are forecast to be, if they actually are as hot as it says, nobody's going to end up sleeping tonight anyway. It's been one of those nights where everyone's too warm in bed. Stick the telly on and have a corker of that one.
Yeah, my aircon unit will be on, so I might actually manage to fall asleep. But I don't know, because like I say, it's one I fancy watching. I think Senegal, Norway, both tips are possible. We talked about it, didn't we, in the first game? Obviously, we talked about 2002 and Senegal beating France, and I thought Senegal gave France a decent game in that first half. In particular, obviously, France turned it on a bit later on in the game in the second half and ended up looking comfortable winners. But Norway, I know Jay's tipped them to be a dark horse for the tournament. If you can say anyone's a dark horse with Erling Haaland up front. We talked about how they play in the units, didn't we, with Soloff and who's the other lad, Sean Larson, their options that they have up front, so that we know how they'll play. But yeah, it should be a decent game, that, and it could, like you said, like Lou said back there, it could mean that the results could mean that France need to beat Norway in that last game to finish top of the group. So it should be a bit of a taster one if people are willing to stay up and watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if you stayed awake for that one that might help put you to sleep straight afterwards in Jordan versus Algeria, that's supposed to be a little bit harsh, actually, because to be fair to Algeria, from the highlights that I saw of them playing Argentina, they did actually give Argentina a real go in that game. Lou?
I want to stay up and watch this one just to say we've done it. You know, that feels like it's peak World Cup, doesn't it? To stay up.
Does. That's when you can say you're one of the 12 people in the United Kingdom that stayed up to watch Jordan versus Algeria.
I feel like
without any like necessary relation to either nation.
Yeah, I feel like I might get the metaphorical medal around my neck if I can stay up for that one. Yeah, you know what? It's one of those where we probably don't watch it, and it could turn out to be a really good game, couldn't it? So, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm no expert on both teams. I'm guessing Algeria are a little bit better than Jordan, but again, that's just based on historical stuff, which probably isn't fair either.
Yeah, I mean, Argentina, Austria in that group obviously both won the first game against those two. So, to be fair, quite a big opportunity, really, for both sides, Gaz, to try and get a win on the board that might end up putting them through as one of the best third-place teams.
Yeah, it's that whole thing. One of you mentioned to me before we went live about how only 4 third-place teams go out. So there's a good chance you finish third, you go through. So it gives those teams an opportunity, doesn't it? I was hoping you wouldn't ask me about it, Chris, because I know nothing about Jordan or Algeria. But it's a shame that there's one. You could actually, some people might actually get up early. It'd be really early. You'd have to be like a milkman early time to get up and watch that. But you can't do it if you've stayed up to watch Norway, Senegal. You're basically only going to get an hour's sleep, aren't you, before Jordan, Algeria? So I don't know how many people stay up for it. It would, as Lou said, it's a metaphorical medal if you do, really.
They really could have done with like crushing the games together with like no more than half an hour gaps at most between, just to allow for like 10 minutes of stoppage time at the end of a second half or something to really have made it work. But yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Do you have a dose for an hour, or do you just stay up? And I'll say it's one of those, like, if the forecast is what it is, and it's just hot overnight, it's going to be a problem for anyone sleeping tonight in this country. So, yeah, we will see. We'll round it up there then. That's our whistle stop tour through all the games over the weekend and looking ahead to tonight's action. Gaz, I think it's you and me again tomorrow, mate.
Yeah, me and you tomorrow, mate. About 1:30 again, won't it, bud?
Yeah, and Lou, well, you're welcome to come back and join us if you're free, but if not, no worries. I think you're going to come back on later in the week anyway for us. So, yeah, we'll leave it there on today's show. We will be back tomorrow around 1:30-ish tomorrow afternoon, where we will look back at the 4 games from tonight and look ahead to tomorrow's. We will be back later tonight as well on the West Yorkshire Football Show to be confirmed, but probably some point around the 8 p.m. mark, where we're going to be looking specifically ahead to England versus Ghana tomorrow night. So if you're about, join us for that one here on the West Yorkshire Football Show YouTube channel, available on X and Facebook as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.